but it's kind of, I kind of.
Yeah, my
You
office.
guys could be drinking over there and we'd have no idea.
It's kind of orange.
We can do that?
Citrus. Yeah, how about get make that ahead, like
3 times.
I don't think we have a rule against it, Chris.
I do a lot of stuff.
Well, that was a missed opportunity.
Smells like bleach.
Mr. Romline, how are you, sir?
Excellent.
That's good.
That mask cracks me up.
You've been staying healthy?
Hardly even.
Hopefully it doesn't distract you too
We'll
much.
have a beer on my.
What?
So don't distract me too, hopefully it doesn't distract you too much.
I was laughing last time.
Yep.
Come back to
Are you?
school.
No issue here.
And then
It would be great if you could see the
guy
presentation.
for 12 years.
I was
I
able
have
to
not,
follow.
Times.
It's like, okay.
Taking-
And then
taking
she
your
said,
guys'
if I
input.
And,
give
and Bob, would you lead us in the pledge? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Brad, your neighbors are wondering, what's that guy doing watering the lawn saying the pledge?
Literally hanging.
All right, let's take a roll call real quick. If you're here, say so. Nate?
Present?
Brad?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Chris?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
And I'm here. We're all present. We have a quorum present, so we will proceed to the next item of business, which is the minutes of our August 19th meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve minutes as printed.
Moved by Chris,
Second?
second by Dave. Is there discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We always reserve time on our agenda for members of the public who are present to comment to the board. Does anyone here want to speak up? Going once. All right. Thank you. Kristen, training segment.
Thanks. Our segment tonight is on Parks and Greenways by Victor Dover. He still has some excellent videos, and these are new. This one was just done last month, I think. But it's 8 minutes and 23 seconds long, so it's a little longer than the last few we've watched, but there's some really good nuggets toward the end, so please hang with it.
The design of cities begins with streets and squares and neighborhoods, but it also depends on parks and open spaces and the connections between them. Parks, greenways, and blueways give form to the neighborhoods and bring nature into the city. In many ways, the modern profession of city planning was born with parks. Progressive reformers concerned with public health in the smoky industrial cities turned to landscape architects to create ample, green, open to the sky spaces where people could relax amid nature, and the water and air would be cleaner. Frederick Law Olmsted's idea for Boston's emerald necklace of interconnected parks and green corridors was a public health idea, a water cleanup idea, not just a recreational one. And the first American to identify himself as a professional city planner, John Nolan, was in fact a landscape architect. By training, he had a long career in parks planning already under him when he began devising new towns and reshaping old ones. These innovators realized that the planning of neighborhoods and transportation corridors and the establishment of open spaces were not separate acts to be dealt with in their own separate professional silos. And they understood that the green parts of a city aren't just leftovers, ignored in between the built-up areas that receive all sorts of attention from architects, engineers, real estate developers. Instead, the natural and green parts should be subjects of design in themselves. They taught us that allowed for restoration and maximizing community benefits and ecological values. Today, parks and recreation programs are often operated in their own separate departments, quite apart from the day-to-day work of city planning. But really all the plans should be integrated, especially now when park spaces hold the life-saving, economy-saving solutions for urbanism in an era of climate change. Everyone deserves a great park. A basic national goal has been set of having park space within 10 minutes walk of every home. That's a start. But it's not just a matter of keeping the distances short. We also need good means of getting there. Non-motorized transportation on bike-friendly, walk-friendly streets and multi-user trails are all needed to connect our local parks to where we live and where we work and go to school. Today we should think of what Mitchell Silver calls parks without borders, extending through these connections to give everyone the option of a park life. Even larger scale trail systems like the East Coast Greenway are gradually taking the interconnected web of park life to the next level, allowing for long non-motorized commutes and for bike tourism. The traditions in landscape architecture show us that parks, greenways, and waterways take their best form from listening closely to the lay of the land, from looking at the way the topography rolls and folding in the natural courses of stormwater. In this way, the continuum of green supports not just human happiness, but flood control, water quality, flyways for birds, pollinator corridors for winged insects, the food web, and adaptation to climate change and sea level rise.
Miami-Dade Parks Director Maria Nardi likes to say, parks just might save the world.
Putting all this together, modern-day practitioners like David Barth described a continuum of green that extends from the tiniest tot lot to the pocket park, to the community garden, to the neighborhood square, to recreational fields and large-scale parks, and on to restoration of wilderness and conservation areas, all interconnected by greenways, tree-lined streets, broad green boulevards, and trails. Parks, greenways, and blueways. They might be number 12 on this list of town planning stuff everyone needs to know, but they're of primary importance because they affect everything. For more information, check out the National Recreation and Parks Association's 10-minute walk commitment campaign and go to the NRPA website to learn how to become a park champion.
All right. My point in showing you that was mostly at the last couple of minutes there where we talked about the economic impact of a green space, including all the benefits for our own personal health and the environment, but the economic impact is significant, and those were just a few examples, and I think that we're seeing some of that already take place throughout the community or throughout downtown with some of the investments that have been made and that will continue to be made. So keep that in mind as we approve loans and as we talk in the future about new developments and things like that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, thanks, Kristen. On to number 7. Matt, loan review team?
Yeah, so we had 5 loans that we were looking at. 2 of them need to get us more information on yet. Still working on them getting that to us. Another one changed the application just a little bit. That'll probably be coming next month. But we have 2 of them here to look at. The first one, White Oak LLC. It's to remodel the building at 14 East Main Street. Dan and Maggie Wagner are the principals. Everything looked really good from a credit standpoint. Cash flow, collateral, everything was good. So it was unanimously recommended by the loan review team to move forward with that one. So the second one, Fourth Corner LLC, same thing. Everything looked good from a financial standpoint, collateral. We actually have a loan out to Fourth Corner already for the remodel of the lower level. The request was $30,000. The only thing that I'd change on here, so the amount was $30,000, a grant of $3,000, and the owner's supposed to put $3,000 in, so the loan's actually gonna be $24,000. From credit standpoints, we recommend both of them be approved.
Okay.
So can you summarize for Brad, because he can only hear you, Rob, when you talk?
Yeah, Brad, so we have two loans in front of us that the committee has unanimously forwarded back to the RDA for approval. One is to White Oak LLC, and that is Daniel and Margaret Wegner for a $116,000 loan with a $14,500 grant and an owner match of that grant. And the second is that Fourth Corner LLC loan to Bob and Jenny Mudler. The loan amount will be $24,000, a grant of $3,000, and an owner contribution of $3,000. So why don't we take White Oak first? Is there any discussion or questions for Matt?
Actually, just a question in general. With the other ones that are outstanding, Matt, how many dollars do we have that currently as of request, including these two?
Boy,
That's hard to calculate because the two that aren't have changed. The two that aren't still in, their amounts likely will change.
yeah. One of them is gonna be, it was $250,000. He's not gonna get
Yeah.
all of it, so, yeah, and that might change his ability, or his ask, depending on what he can find someplace else, but I don't see us helping out to that level on
Yeah.
that one anyways. The other ones were 30,
Yep.
and what was,
I can try to find it quick, but
I should know that, but I don't.
I was just curious in context of how much do we have to lend in total? So I think when we first spoke, we talked about bringing them together so we at least, I guess, maybe could prioritize within the dollars we have and also trying to spread around. So I just want to make sure whatever, we would do tonight, it's also, we're understanding the impact down the road on the other requests. That's all.
So, yeah, so ideally, it would have been nice to have all of them in here
Yeah.
together, because that's what we did. We said we wanted them by, whatever it was, July 1st. However, there's still stuff that, some of it wasn't given to us right away. Another one, as we were digging into it,
Yeah.
other stuff came up that we requested additional information, and they're being really good about getting it to us, but just ran out of time. So as far as, I guess from an RDA standpoint, the White Oak, I think 116,000 is a nice, it's going to be a nice improvement to the downtown area for a $116,000 loan. I think the community will see the benefit of that, right on the corner of First and Main, redoing a pretty cool, the old bank building
Yeah.
downtown, redoing it. So taking it back to some of the original look, opening up windows again, redoing the entryway. So, that one I'm fine with. Fourth Corner, so if you remember when this one was presented, the ask was 30,000. 15 was for the upstairs, 15 was for the downstairs, which was actually cost overruns
Yeah.
that we had previously funded. So, that goes for a little, I don't know if we want to talk about that one separately. Do we want to get into funding cost overruns on something that was already?
Yeah, I think that was something I had
So-
asked us to consider that night, about, you know, us being gap financing essentially, or, you know, definitely a low-cost alternative to incentivize. But there's also in my mind, like, where's our balance on projects? Because, you know, the owner of the project also has to, you know, have accountability for their budget. And let's say they didn't finish it, are they coming back to us to say, without your money, this project isn't could finish? Because that's concerning to me, you know, long-term. What did you guys discuss at the,
So at what the team discussed was what was presented. You know, we didn't discuss what it was for.
Okay.
We discussed from a credit standpoint, cash flow collateral, guarantor support. You know, that's what we looked at, all the credit stuff. As far as should it be used for the upstairs and downstairs, that's something that I felt should be up to the board, the RDA board to discuss.
do you have any thoughts? I mean,
Personally, I don't want to, I don't like funding cost overruns. That's just a banker talking. You know, I like, you know, if there's cost overruns, I think they should stick their own money into it. So on Fourth Corner LLC, I would probably, my recommendation would be to fund the 15,000 with a grant of 1,500 and the owner's cash of 50. I'd cut everything in half. That would be my recommendation from an RDA standpoint. I just don't like the idea of setting a precedent and coming back. You know, we don't have an open checkbook. Maybe we wouldn't have approved it had all the, had it been laid out up front. And I'm not saying that we wouldn't have,
Sure, yeah.
but it changes the whole scheme of things. So that would be my recommendation. That's my thought.
Kristen, what is the amount that we have available to lend at this point in total?
So of the second 300, I think we just did the Curbs property and Bob Mudler's first building.
But we had some pay downs too that
Yes.
we had, so.
Well, he paid, Curbs equaled out, right? So
Yeah.
about 44,000, so I'd say 260, 250?
Yeah, I was gonna say 265 to 270 is what I remembered from last time, but
Yep.
probably to be conservative, if we don't have it in front of us, I would say we've got 250 to lend.
Plus, we've
so,
had a lot of other repayments, so,
Since then, yeah.
so.
All right, so
260.
we've got about 260
Yep,
available yet to lend. And in front of us now, we've got the ones, and that's not the grant fund, right?
Right.
So, and we got 116 for White Oak. And Brad, the discussion now is whether the board might want to cut the Fourth Corner in half, because half of it was targeted to cover cost overruns from the first phase of the project that they got funding from us for.
Right.
Other discussion?
the other requests before, you had asked about what else wasn't being brought to the table tonight. Budget print had originally requested 250 to 260. MDH investments 30,000 and WIP 30,000.
Well, I'll offer my opinion. I think that the White Oak project, I agree where Matt, where your head is at on that one. I think that is something we are going to see multiple times a day up and down Main Street. I think it's so squarely in line with the goals of the program. That one to me feels like a very worthy, it's a big chunk of what we've got. So it has to be worthy, but I think that one I'd be comfortable with. And I'm sort of intrigued by this idea of cutting the Fourth Corner one in half. I know, I won't repeat them because the rationale you laid out makes sense to me. What do others think? Yeah, Chris.
About the fourth corner one. So if we reduce his loan in half, is that going to affect how he proceeds with his project, or is that just going to make him simply have to get a loan for the other 15,000 somewhere else, or what do we know about that?
My understanding is it's done. And we didn't want this to be we're going to come and finish the project and then come back and ask the RDA for money. We didn't want that to be the case because, obviously if you can do it yourself, what are you coming to the RDA for? However, the way that we did this time, we did say because of COVID, we weren't meeting for a while. We pushed out the meetings and we said, look, if you guys, we didn't want to tie somebody's hands and say, look, if you start, you can't get a loan. But you need to go into it knowing that it's not approved. So you're proceeding at your own risk. So I would say the borrower knew the risk of the loan not being approved at all or partially approved, and still move forward. So I believe it's done, as far as I know.
Anyone else want to express their views before someone makes a motion?
I mean, I agree with Matt's description of why not to do the full amount. I mean, I'm on the same belief structure you are, probably because I work in banking too.
Yeah.
But I think moreover on the RDA portion of it is, I think it's also somewhat of a precedent set. Like, you're going to take the risk, but if it doesn't work out exactly, you're going to come back to us. And I don't believe that's in our best interest. The money needs to be put out to projects. I think we're picking good, creditworthy people and borrowers and taking some risks. And I think if that were a concern up front, we'd want to have a discussion. I think Matt's team does a great job, and they would probably identify that. So I just believe that we need to sit down and say, we gave you funds for that. That's kind of all you can come back for. If you want to do something different in addition, I'm open to that. And so that's where I would sit too, Matt.
You've convinced me.
Same.
This property right behind Logan's in that block?
No,
It's-
this one is up the street here.
It's on this
Yeah.
side of the river.
East
up
Main, East Main, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Third. Actually, yeah, straight up.
Madison, Third and Madison.
Good to in a block of
So like
ISA,
kitty
2
corner
blocks.
from the,
It was vacant.
The
It was
old
vacant
Ken's
for
top.
last 10, 12, 14. I mean, the Mullers have done a great job. I don't think it's at least my vote isn't a critique on what they've done or anything, but that's that property.
I just missed right the east.
Well, why don't we take these one at a time? Is there a motion on approving the loan to White Oak as described?
I move to approve it.
Moved by Matt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Nate. Any discussion? All right, we're going to vote, Brad, on approving the loan to White Oak. I will do a roll call. If you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, no. Nate?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well, so that is approved. All right, is there a motion on how we should handle the request from Fourth Corner?
I move to approve $15,000 for the remodeling of the upper floor of the building.
So the motion is from Matt. It is to approve a loan of $15,000, which would be for purposes of the second story aspects of the project.
As a detail, should that note, it should technically be 12,000? Is he doing 1,500 of his own cash?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's 12,000. 1,500 would be the grant.
Right, yeah, okay. I was just
All right.
making sure.
So a
Yeah, and
$12,000 loan
1,500.
and a $1,500 grant,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
would be matched by $1,500 from the owner. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right? What did you say, Rob? I guess.
So $12,000 loan, a $1,500 grant, matched by $1,500 from the owner.
That's my motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I had one clarification. Sorry, Matt, I didn't ask it, but that, we know you said half and half, is that, you guys looked at those numbers? I mean, if you told me that, this 30,000 request and then 17 and change was for upstairs, I mean, I just want to make sure it's just all going for the new part of the project.
So the detail that I remember getting on that one wasn't the clearest.
Got it.
But it was basically, it was 15,000 for the upstairs and 15,000 for cost overruns on the second.
Gotcha.
So,
That's
yeah.
how the owners split.
Okay, well, I'd second your motion, and I'd just say this, if something else would be clarified for you, I'd be open to entertaining something if you showed proof of the upstairs being a little bit more. I don't want it to be punitive to him. I don't
Yeah.
want that message to be sent.
I'd be fine with that too.
60 minutes?
All right, so the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, if you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, no. Nate?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That is now approved. Thank you, Matt. Anything further?
No, nope,
All right.
more to
We-
come.
We appreciate all the attention to detail that you and the team put into these things, so thanks for doing it. It's definitely in your wheelhouse and not mine. Kristen, do you have Jeannie's presentation loaded or Dave's?
Dave's.
Okay, good. So we'll move to the design input team, and Dave has a presentation and an update for us.
Great.
Wish Brad could see this.
Brad, we're going to email this to you somehow so you can see the presentation after the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Kristen asked me if I was willing to present this, and I said, a pastor willing to talk to a captive audience? I hope I can keep it short enough for you. Anyway, I just wanted to include, if you'll look at the screen, can Matt see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. This one and then the next two, I included these just to remind us what we've been working on so hard for the past couple of years. Every time I see these pictures, and they always seem new to me, and it's just like, this was a shot I had never seen before. This is obviously from Main Street, looking onto the west end of the park with the library off-screen to the right, and that was just a neat shot for me to see, and gets me pretty excited. Now, it may not end up looking exactly like this, but it's a really neat shot. Just wanted to remind you a little bit of who is on the steering committee. Kristen, myself, Candy Stramera, Randy Wojtaszek. Did I do it?
Nailed it.
What?
Nailed it.
Good. Worried about that one. Randy Franks and Jay Haberkorn from the Street Department, Dan Rayfelt, Brian Kahns, Melissa Lampe, and Jeannie Miller was there as well at the August 20th meeting. Representing, I just wanted to toss this up here to just let you see who we're dealing with. I think some of these faces they're looking very familiar to me. We've been in a lot of meetings, but I don't know about to you, but Cassie Goodwin, Tom Rogers, Connor Nett, and Adam Hammond. These are the Smith Group representatives. Adam Hammond was new to us now in this. He's the project manager, and he is very organized, very to the point, and let's get this hammered out. In our original meeting on August 20th, he pointed out that the original design of the square was not far off from the actual conditions that they were anticipating before the buildings were torn down. There would be some finessing of that, but not a whole lot. All right. And then they were guessing that to be the case in our August meeting, and then in September, Connor, I believe Connor's the chief engineer. Is that what it doesn't matter, but he's
He's a landscape architect.
So
kind of the brains behind the design.
So and he confirmed that what had been planned will work on the site and with just some minor finessing. So then we had a meeting on September 16th, and we were joined not only by these people, but some other wonderful, very talented designers from Smith Group. And one of whom was a lighting designer, much smarter than I am, and probably, well, I'm looking over that direction. Maybe you guys might be a little smarter than he is, but the rest of the room probably not so much. But he was, there is a deep, and you can go to the next slide, there is a deep concept, oh, I missed something. Anyway, we are in the design and permit phase right now. That was, I'm sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, there we go. I must have missed that on my notes. We're in, and I can't see that from here, so Kristen, will you just say what that is going on right now?
So, summer to winter 2020, we're in the design and permit phase where design development hopefully will be done by November so that they can move on to getting the construction documents ready by February, and then doing a winter bid starting in February. And they'll work on permitting as well, December through March.
And then there's one in the, did you do the bid and construct part?
And
The
then-
first one on there always shocks me, I think.
The winter bid, February and March?
Yeah, that's, that's coming before we know it, so,
That means that's when we're going to actually go out and find the person who's going to build this thing.
correct,
Well,
yeah. So that's coming. But anyway, now the lighting design. This is,
So then, you want this?
skip that one, yeah, we did that. There we go. Oh, my goodness, I had trouble, computer issues. Anyway, John?
Here's the light.
Okay, I can go back to that one, I'm sorry. John Kalibi had that request for some form of remembrance of perhaps the former buildings that were on the square and a nod to the history of that place. And so we passed that on to Smith Group, and they came, these are some ideas that might work, and they're still working on that, but I just wanted to reiterate that that is moving forward.
And this might work too for some applications if someone wants to contribute, say, to a seating boulder or something. We could imprint the name or put a metal plate in, some way, recognize them. Now the lighting.
There we go, okay. So our very smart designer, there is some deep concept behind this design that I did not quite understand as he was going, but it has something to do with dropping two pebbles into the water as the waves intercept with each other. Couldn't tell you what it is about, but there's a deep concept here anyway. And then on to the next slide. This is, we chose this lighting fixture to go in that first lighting design that you saw there. It gives a nod to the traditional wrought iron that will be on Main Street and is on the bridges. This gives you a little glimpse of what this light fixture looks like in a very contemporary setting and a very traditional setting. Committee thought it was a kind of a combination. I do want to say that the committee learned a few things in our first meeting with Smith Group. I think a lot of us remembered what a camel is. Camel is a horse designed by a committee, and so they will give us some options on things, but we probably need to stay within their recommendations because we don't want to end up with a camel on Main Street. Also, the committee, I think, learned that if we've got some opinions, some questions, they need to be asked at the meeting because Smith Group is ready to move on. They're on a schedule. And so we need to, it's not going to be a lot of time to deliberate. We need to be open and honest. And what I've known with Smith Group is that they will not be offended by even the dumbest idea. They'll take it under consideration, which is really, really good. We also talked about the pavilion. You'll see there's three options there. Movable furnishings, and again, I can't see the three choices, but.
Movable tables and chairs, fixed benches, or picnic tables.
Yeah, so should this be a fixed area under the pavilion, under the picnic, or the what is?
Shelter.
Shelter. The committee moved in the direction that it could be movable, but not something that could be tossed into the river very easily. Then the shape of this structure would, we picked out these bottom two, they gave us about 8 choices. The curved one on the bottom left, follows this circular kind of pattern of the park. And then the style of the, what do you call those things?
Pergola?
Pergolas, thank you. The pergola on the right would be the kind of how it would be constructed. And they will come back with a design for that at our next meeting. Talked a little bit about the water feature, size of it. The one on the left has 15 nozzles. The one on the right has 30 nozzles. We went with the one with 15 nozzles. If you'll notice, there is a kind of a natural curb that comes around between Main Street and the water feature. And we felt that the smaller feature kind of, that provided a little bit of a barrier. Can you point, yeah,
Put a little seating barrier here.
right. And that kind of,
Point out Main Street, where's Main Street?
Main Street is up there.
Okay, gotcha.
So then that kind of is, you're not going to have a, whereas in the larger one, you could have getting around that barrier. Also, it's cheaper to have 15 nozzles instead of 30. And there was, I don't know that it's been totally decided yet, but it could be lighted at night with colors, the smaller one, for the same price. Then the bridge abutment. This is a little bit hard to see when it's not in your hand, but so that, we know that that bridge abutment is going to be a tough thing to deal with, especially with the bridge being replaced. So we're not going to put something in that will be torn out. Is it 2026? We're just not going to do that. So we need to put something in there temporary, but realize that if this is completed in fall of 2021, we don't want to say, well, the park's not going to be done until 2026. So we want it to look as like it's part of the park, even though it's, will not be long-term. So next steps are,
Hey, Dave, can you?
Yep.
Can you explain just in words a little bit about what that is meant to look like then? Like if you were actually, when it's done?
yeah, so if you look at the green, they gave us several options. It could be a mural that is painted, and it's just permanent. It could also be a mural that is painted, intended to be painted over several times throughout that 5 years or whatever it's up there. They also gave us an idea of like, what's the latest thing there? Somewhat similar to a pallet wall, a wooden structure that would look more finished and might attract graffiti, but I think it's all going to probably, but with cameras and lighting, it won't be a problem, correct? Yeah, but it's, I still don't exactly understand what's going on this. You see the green on the left, the green line, and the sidewalk. There's a Watertown 3-brick wall in between where the red line is, the existing brick wall. I don't know what's going to happen in the gap above. I don't know if we can tell that or not, but I
I'd
think
like
that
to keep
sidewalk
this
is mostly exposed.
picture up here, though, for later, too, if I can come back to
Sure,
this one.
yeah,
Because it'll
yeah.
help our discussion on a future item. But the Smith Group has been meeting with the DOT as well, so they know the challenges and the concerns, and they've been in communication with them and are recommending more of a, as Dave said, a temporary wall here that won't be expensive to replace with a more permanent wall when the bridge is done. But we're not going to be wasting money on an expensive permanent wall here now and have it ripped out in 5 years.
So I think that's all I have.
I had the next steps here and.
Oh, next steps, yeah. Yeah, they will be continuing to refine the plan, and then we'll have another meeting in early to mid-October. So it is a dream coming true. Yes, sir.
I got a call today from Gene Schmidt, second call I got from him. He plans on performing on the stage and wanted to know, are we planning on putting some kind of roof or shade structure on the stage when people perform music up there?
I'll let Chris, that is not in the plan right now. That will be open, just because then it will allow for various sizes of performing groups. You know, you could go larger than that space or smaller than that space.
I'll just give you the reason why he asked
Yeah.
for one, because he did a performance or concert or something down in Kentucky or Tennessee or something this summer. It was really
Yeah.
hot, and it fried his equipment, and
Oh, boy.
he got heat exhaustion or whatever, so that was concerning. Actually, he brought 2 separate times now to me.
Yeah.
Today was the last one, so.
I think first they're concerned about obstructing the view of the river. But then also we had talked at some point about putting in some type of a pole or something poles that could hold canvas that could be removed and put up for things
Like
like
a
that.
sail kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And he probably could perform under the structure,
Yeah,
you know, if he,
reversed it.
And I'm going to stay on the same theme. Has there been discussion about any sort of electrical infrastructure in that state?
Yeah, yeah. Throughout the park, I believe. Or town square, sorry.
Well, Chris, do we want to try to make sure that Smith Group at least takes a look at that option of something to shade that, even if it's removable?
Well, I told Gene I'd bring it up again, just so they can think about it and see if they can come up with some solutions, either like a temporary thing like you were suggesting,
Yeah.
or something like that for the dog days when it gets hot and sunny, and keep people safe, keep their equipment from frying.
Okay.
And Water Street is gonna be closed then? That one, no?
it will be open to traffic, and it will be able to be closed for big events, but it will be open to traffic. There won't be parking like there is now on Water Street, but that food truck would be an example of a day it might be closed, but that food truck could also be parked somewhere where the traffic could still go through there.
Imagine we could also park the food truck on the hardscape
Yep,
Mhm.
in the park.
yep.
Exciting. Matt, were you trying to?
So I had something to
Oh.
say.
Oh, Melissa, yeah.
So the things I think about when I'm in my car and I can't write them down, one is we haven't talked yet about security system.
No.
I think that's going to be so important. So maybe we bring in Captain Olson from the police department in one of our discussions, because we're going to have infrastructure in the park for the cameras, and maybe they're going to be mounted on the poles. So the poles would need whatever the hookup is,
Sure.
if it's electrical or HDMI or whatever.
Right.
Now, and the other thing is, with the plaza being closed, we have to find a new place to put Santa House again this year. And it's never easy to find electrical. So in Sharp Corner Park, we don't have a plug that we can stick it into the ground right now. So wherever, I'd like Smith Group to figure out where they think Santa House is most appropriate on here and make sure we have a plug that can be locked so it's not accessible year round. But that's one of those afterthought
Yeah.
things that are really frustrating, because then they're really expensive to
Right.
put in.
Yeah. That's why this sale is a good thing to think about now, because few places for poles and cement is easy now, but not later.
Oh, Jim.
Could I just bring up something? Several years ago, I was doing some research on the weather, so I contacted the State Weather Bureau. The Deputy Director of the State Weather Bureau said, yeah, Bromline, I just so happens I have done a study on the water, on the zone, in the area just north of us. And so he sent me a copy of his report, and it starts out like this. He says that they started in 1872, when they started keeping records, and they tracked all of the days with 2 inches of rain or more. And so up to the current time. So the graph looks like this. It starts like this, 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 like this. And then he did a projection of what this means in the terms of what's gonna happen in the future with global warming. And the graph goes like this. We've already had 300, in the last few years, we've had 3 100-year floods in this area. Now, sometime before, I don't know when it was, the downtown area streets were one block lower. I'm sorry, were one floor lower.
Yes.
And they raised that ground up to build a sluiceway so that you have a containment area behind here for the dam, for the mill. That's the reason for the sluice that we have out there. What it does is it backs the water up. Now, when we had the high water, when we lost this building and the other buildings down here, what happens is the water can't get out that channel fast enough. And it backs up through the city. So what we're facing in the future is a hell of a lot of water coming down here. Now, I don't know that we've taken this issue into consideration when we're doing this park. And maybe it's something that we ought to look into.
I know that the stormwater aspects of this were front and center for Smith Group. They actually had a stormwater consultant on the early design team, right? Now, I don't know what kind of modeling they did for rain events and what capacity they want the park to handle. I have no idea.
From a stormwater perspective, we're going from a completely impervious site, when it
Right.
was all buildings, to at least half pervious, with the, the stormwater flowing through the various natural filters toward the river. But I don't know that that's as much an issue for the design committee, so we might not hear about everything they're doing related to stormwater.
But
And I know your point isn't stormwater, it's,
no, well, yeah, what they were saying is that the water will probably be as high as the opening to the library. The present opening to the library, the water will probably be that high.
Well, you mean in a
Have
flood
several
event?
of those.
yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other comments? Concerns? Chris?
I'd be really surprised if there hasn't been comprehensive stormwater modeling anticipation of not just a 100-year, but a 200-year and even a 500-year event. The company I work for does those all the time, and depending on the municipality where you live, like Madison, they require you to do a study for like 500 years if you're going to do some kind of improvement. For this area, I don't know what our ordinances or anything say, but it's probably worth asking the question, the Smith Group, what kind of flood event have we planned for, 100-year, 200-year, 500-year? Those are the three common ones. And see what their answers are and see what they anticipate water elevations to be in this area. It's worth asking the question. It's an easy question. I'm sure they've answered it, or at least studied it.
Great. All right, anything else for Dave? Thank you, Dave. Community support and communication. Jeannie and Kristen?
Okay, do you want to show the video first? So I was at the letters. The letters are in at Sharp Corner.
Good morning, everybody. We're here at Sharp Corner Park, and it's another exciting week here in Watertown. Last week, we had the library groundbreaking, and now here we are at Sharp Corner, putting in the letters Sharp Corner. They'll get bolted into the ground. We've got a little bit of painting to do on this city logo, and then a pergola and some flagpoles and benches and tables will be coming in the next couple of weeks. So we are almost there, and it's a wonderful space to anchor this end of the downtown. We can't wait to get it open and have you all come and enjoy it.
So the next part is, when is ribbon cutting? Did you find out? So I'm assuming somebody or some people or everyone from RDA should be there and celebrate along with the city. And then you can show the piece of paper. What it is, it's a little it'll be an 8x10 or 8x6 dedication plaque, and we're thinking of putting that either, on one of the letters or maybe the Watertown logo, so that the RDA continues to get credit for it. So that's number one. Number two,
Jeannie, before you move on to number 2, on the ribbon cutting? Like, boy, 3 years ago, when we first got contacted, somebody mailed us a letter, remember? And with an idea about
Yeah.
trying to do something with that?
Yep.
I don't remember who she was. It would sure be cool if she could get invited to come to that.
Sandy, she's a neighbor, yeah.
I think we should make a point of reaching out, because she kind of got the ball rolling.
okay?
It's the Parks Department's event, so we'll have to coordinate with Randy.
So then, is it Randy, part of the parks, right?
Yep.
So he sent that video link to White Clouds in Utah. And so now White Clouds asked us for the video, plus a bunch of pictures, so that we're gonna be one of their little feature people, customers. And their claim to fame now, I found out, they do all the big TED letters for TED Talks, so. So now we're included in like fame and fortune.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fortune we like.
yeah, we do like fortune, but there was a bill with that. So moving on, another thing is, I had created a case study sheet. So starting next week, I'm going to be contacting, I think we have 10 companies that we're going to ask a number of questions, a description of the building, and then, different things so that we can get a book together for case studies. And
These are recipients of either our loan or grant program, so everybody who's borrowed money from us or received a grant from us, Jeannie's going to try to interview.
And then part of that, just because the video really describes more, if they have pictures of going through and then end pictures and a walkthrough. And then that can be for them as well, so they can promote their building and we can have it on RDA, because I think seeing videos is much more engaging than a bunch of blah, blah, blah on a sheet of paper that, basically I read and nobody else does. So that's another thing. Next.
The banners?
The banners. The banners were harder than we thought because the artwork provided was too small. So it was so wonderful that Charles, they worked with me constantly to get larger art, and with Smith Group. We got all large art except for the cutout, that was way too small and it can never be bigger.
The
So
cross-section one?
the cross-section
Yeah,
one.
okay.
So a new banner is over at the printer, and as soon as they get it done, but it's more of the top view, more of the technical view. And I think, did everybody get the PDF that I sent you with the banners? Oh, okay. Well, there's a PDF with all the banners, and I'm going to put that on the website so people can see them. And then I changed the website because it says on the banners about fundraising, and not that we have anything technical together, but the first paragraph talks about fundraising, and then there's a link, and it go right to Kristen. So she can start collecting all the names of the people who have millions laying around to give us. So then you can put gold plating on. Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you. Chris, Common Council?
All right, in October, that's when the council will be taking up their budgeting for the 2021 year. Lots of finance committee meetings, and they'll be published. If, that's the best way anyone can have any input on what the city decided to spend their money on, is at these finance committee meetings, and it'd be 1 week, second or third week in October, where we'll be meeting probably 4 days a week. I drove by the Sharp Corner, and the pergola is up this week. That was new. That looks sharp. The video talked about library project underway. That's exciting. News from the street department, our street superintendent, Randy Franks, resigned a couple of weeks ago, so we're looking for a new street superintendent, if you know anyone. And it was talked about before, the plaza where the Santa House is closed. There's some structural deficiencies under there, some undermining and stuff. Well, the Riverwalk was closed, I think, fall last year. There was some blowouts in the east bank there, and we had anticipated getting a grant, to do major repairs for that blowout so we can open up the Riverwalk. So that process started last fall, and grant announcements came in the spring, and we didn't get it. So that's why the Riverwalk's been closed so long. And just last week, city staff noticed there's some cracking and settling going on at the plaza where the Santa House goes. And sure enough, we called in the structural engineer, and they're like, you got to close this until it gets fixed. So that will be a new expense that we'll have to figure out at our budgeting meetings next week to pay for all that. And we got structural engineers going to come again later this, they may have came today or soon, to look at that and to look at the corner that was up on the screen there, the void kind of underneath the bridge there by our town square over there. And I had heard rumblings about trying to move up the date of the bridge repair because of that void area. We're going to have to do something. So they talked about a temporary fix can maybe last a couple of years. Well, can we move the repair up from 2026 to 2024 or 2023 or whatever? So there is talk about that, keeping in mind our schedule, making sure that we get our stuff here done first before they do theirs, but we're not waiting years and years for the bridge. So that's still, I'll say it's up in the air, but it might be a long shot to get moved up. And we've had a few city workers test positive for coronavirus, so that's not fun to deal with. So it's still a thing, it's still out there. We all got to be careful and do what we got to do to keep each other safe and healthy.
Chris, do you see, are there any changes in the prospects of the cities supporting the funding for the town square at the level where we've been looking to get it?
I hope not, but that's a great question, because there are expenses, unforeseen expenses across the river for the plaza and the Riverwalk that we're going to have to consider how we're going to fund those, if we're going to not fund something, if we're going to borrow more money or whatever. That I just got wind of that today. So we're and maybe there's grant money out there too that we can get emergency repair funding for or something. And the city has fund balance. We can draw part of that, but I ain't going to pay for everything. So yeah, there's lots of moving parts. I would hope that the city doesn't decide to take money from the town square project to pay for other things. That's my opinion, but we all make a decision as a group, so it's a valid question.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Thank you. That was very thorough and much appreciated. Where are we at here? Nate, Planning Task Force and Programming for the town square.
Well, we've met several times in person, obviously socially distancing, of course, also over email. Right now, so our focus, and we've been connecting with the mayor just to keep her in the loop, our focus is to collect best practices, talk to other communities that have had squares, put together a comprehensive, I feel a comprehensive list of questions. So there's several of us going to be communicating with the other communities. We're also doing some research on actual contracts, what goes into them, the types of language that can be used. Our goal with this committee is by the end of October to make some formal recommendations to the mayor about who's that committee, what that committee should consist of long-term for the square programming, because they need to be brought together here end of December, early January, given our timeline. And that group really needs to then come together and make those decisions about the contracts and all the details. But our committee right now as an RDA is to basically create a good solid foundation and platform, provide a solid recommendation and guidance to the mayor, and then we will be involved as this committee gets formed going forward. So we're in the process of it, collecting information. I'd say next month we'll probably have some good nuggets to share as we talk with different communities, learn from them, see what was working, what wasn't working, things they didn't expect that happened. And so I think in general, it's going to be a good process.
Can you remind us who's on the group?
Right now, we've got Kristen and myself and Jeannie, and Melissa's going to help us from a Main Street perspective. There's a couple of, obviously relationships she has with Main Street communities that have done something very similar. And so I think it gives us a good broad perspective. So at this point in time, we're going to keep that group to provide a very good recommendation to the mayor.
Questions? All right, thanks, Nate.
Yep.
Kristen?
So the environmental testing on the town square is proceeding. Sigma has been on the site again to do some more investigation, and they're pinning down the location of potential monitoring wells because they got a revised scope from the DNR related to the tank that had leaked under the 111 site. So they did get that revised scope and they're moving forward. They might have been on site late last week or early this week. And we're staying tuned, and I'm in touch with Sigma on a regular basis. The DOT sat in on a meeting with Smith Group and saw some pictures, probably this one, and came to the community, and that's when they inspected this part of the bridge as well as across on the east side to see some of the things that were happening. They were particularly concerned with where this might be separating here from the structure, and they are concerned about the weight of these Jersey barriers, they're called. Apparently, they're about 300 pounds apiece, and there were 16 of them. There are 16 of them there. So they've recommended that we create a lighter substitute for those, and we'll be voting on that later in the agenda. But that's the concern right now, is the amount of weight that's on that bridge without the support of the front wall of the building at 101 West Main. And the building may or may not have been offering any support. We didn't get a recommendation from R.A. Smith National when they analyzed this to make sure that anything wouldn't cave in when buildings started coming down, and they came up with a plan for us to reinforce those front foundation walls where they were meeting the sidewalk or the ground underneath, but the bridge recesses so far back under there that there is no structure here to leave, and they didn't give us any recommendations for that. So the DOT thinks that more debris has fallen under here, but I've compared the photos, and the big blocks, these big cement blocks were all there before. Any additional debris is that finer dirt that's fallen under there. It's not big chunks. So I know I'm using technical terms, but that's the extent of my engineering knowledge. So they're not concerned about anything collapsing. They just want us to remove some of the weight off of that part of the bridge. Jacob, did I describe that pretty accurately? Very well. Thank you. You
Is,
have an internal angle on all of this, so.
Kristen, is Smith Group in the loop on those monitoring wells as an aspect, then it'll have to be designed into the,
Yes, I asked Mike from Sigma to be in contact with Adam Hammond and vice versa regarding the locations of those wells. Sigma indicated that they don't see them preventing us moving forward with the construction of the town square at all. It's just how long they'll have to be in place to monitor and where they can be placed in the design discreetly. So they're working with Smith Group on that. We're working on next steps regarding community engagement initiatives. As Jeannie mentioned, there will be a reference to anyone wanting to make a contribution to the town square. Those would be the smaller scale contributions, whether they want to sponsor a boulder, seating boulder. I have already gotten, I mentioned before in a meeting, a call about sponsoring a bench. There will be a link on the website to contact me about those. And we're working on the marketing materials for other opportunities for contributing. And then I did want to, on item number Roman numeral 4 under my update, I wanted to note that it's been exactly a year since Brad Kenzie led the effort to talk about the community improvement downtown, the property improvement with the new inspector, Del Zwig. And Del and Doug have been working in downtown, particularly Del, for a year now, and we wanted to circle back on that effort. So we're going to, Brad and I are going to have a meeting with them, get some information about how it's been going. Brad and I just talked this week about that. And then we'll have a follow-up event with downtown property owners to say, how do you think it's going, and how can we continue to help you make improvements to your properties and keep them code compliant and everything like that. So we're following up on that, and I think that's about it.
right? Questions for Kristen?
Just one comment. Looking at my emails here, UT is going to send an inspector Monday to do further investigation of the bridge and see what the city needs to do to shore it up in the short term.
Right
he's
here
bringing
on
the
this
state
side or
checkbook?
everywhere?
Yeah, this right here, what we're looking at.
What did you say?
He's bringing the state's checkbook.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. All right. Moving on, we have the item 8 on the agenda is our August financial reports. Kristen, anything to highlight on those?
Not really. I did want to say that, again, those downtown utilities are above budget because we have, we're paying stormwater and fire fees for each address of the 6 addresses, and every month it's between $20 and $30. I talked to the water department about that, and they say they go by PIN number, and so far we still have 6 different addresses on that block. The trick about combining those and getting one CSM is that right now we have grant applications into the state for the 2 the 2 segments of properties. So we have a SAG and a WAM grant for 2 of the buildings and a SAG and a WAM grant for 4 of the other properties. So we have to finish that work, and we're just going to be paying for fire and stormwater protection for a while yet, I guess, until, I don't know if we do a single CSM when we turn it over to the city or how that's going to work, but that's why the budget looks like it does on that expense item. The other one, if you look at the balance sheet, under cash, it looks like we have a negative balance in cash and we don't. We're fine in the checking account, but what that says is the money that we have in the checking account are all loan receivables that we have money to put in there to spend. I just have to put money in there to cover our operational expenses. And what's in the checking account right now is all loan receivables. So.
2 questions I had. One on the revenue side. We budgeted for $250,000. I know that was a swag at the beginning of the year for grant funding. As of yet, we haven't received any.
We received the SAG grant, and that amount is close to that. It's like 240 something.
So what account did that go into then?
Well, it's actually, we're paying bills and then we're getting reimbursed by the state.
Okay.
And it will cover a significant portion of the demolition and Sigma's work. I've paid one round of invoices, well, I've paid up for all of the demolition and one round of invoices on Sigma, and now I have to wait for that to clear the bank so that I can send the state proof that we paid it and it cleared the bank for them to cut us the checks back.
Can you check with Elissa then and find some way to make that reflective in the revenue budget? Because it looks like we've counted on it and we haven't gotten it, but it sounds like we have.
The other thing is that half of that money is under the city's name, and, yeah, I'll work it out.
Thank you. And then the only other thing I was going to highlight is on the expenditure side, we do have the Sharp Corner sculpture, which was an unbudgeted expense that we approved, but that hit the books here. So, and there's no criticism to that. It's just, I wanted to highlight it, that it's on there, and it's probably the most significant over budget expenditure you're going to see on the list. Any questions? If not, I'll move approval of the financials.
Second.
Seconded by Nate. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Brad. Those are approved. Item 9, we have in front of us a resolution for the safety barricades that Kristen was just discussing to reduce the weight of those concrete barricades that are currently on the bridge deck. Kristen, is there anything further you wanted to say about that?
No, I got an email from Andrew in the engineering department about these barriers. I think they're about $200 a piece, and they needed enough of them. They're the orange and white plastic barriers that are, what are they? Strong wall ADA pedestrian barricades. So it'll create a pathway, two sides of a sidewalk, basically, a path to guide people safely from the edge of the fence to the bridge. And I guess we will own them, so we'll have to figure out what we're going to do with them after we're done with them. The other good news is that we rented 600 lineal feet of chain link fence, and there were some sections left. So we'll be able to use the remaining sections to help get to the point where we need the barriers. But from the engineering department, they found these, they ordered them, and there's a credit card charge pending in the amount of $4,935.70 they want the RDA to pay.
They already ordered them. They already got them? You've ordered them?
Well, it was hard to tell. I keep getting emails about whether they actually ordered them. I think they have ordered them.
I decided to look at the strong wall from parking zone. There's $76.85 here. And we're paying $200 a piece. Must be a different one, maybe?
I can look it up. Let me check and see what, I got the email from Andrew. I do have a copy of the receipt, so if you want to see that, I can show that to you.
I'm just wondering, I just see $76.85 here a piece.
So this was an expenditure that the city has made, if I understand correctly. And it's a request from the city to the RDA to basically cover the expense.
We're paying more than maybe we need.
Sounds like maybe, from what you're finding.
Someone jacked the city up.
Well,
Which I don't think would ever happen.
right.
Let me see if I can find one from Nikki.
So in the midst of this, the last inspection that took place was when I got basically a phone call immediately thereafter from the mayor saying, we have problems down here that need to be remedied, and will the RDA be willing to help us? And I can't commit the RDA's funding. But I certainly believe that if we're going to be asking the city to stand by their word for the contribution of $1 million to the square in the upcoming budget. I'd rather not pick a fight over a request to help with a barrier for public safety. Right?
So we're charged $95 apiece, sorry. There are 48 total barriers.
Well, here it says 24.
Well, there's 24, I'm sorry, 24 of one kind and 24 of another kind, so I wrote that wrong in the resolution.
Okay.
Oh, that's, yeah, 24 barriers and 24 bases. So the barricade, the base is $95 and the barricade is just under that, so probably
Storm underneath the bridge.
$92 for the barricade and
There's enough space
$95
down
for the
there.
base.
Okay, there's a $95 base.
Okay,
Okay.
And Andrew already, I mean, these are purchase orders
they are
out?
ordered.
Okay, so we're writing a check essentially.
This was
To be
order
clear,
confirmation.
we didn't order them.
Yeah,
We're
the city asked to fund it. I'll just make a motion to approve this expenditure for the 48 barricades or
24 barricades.
24, or sorry, 24 barricades and 24 bases that we'll own indefinitely.
Seconded by Bob. Is there discussion? All right, we're going to take a roll call. We're spending money. All those in favor say aye as your name is called. Nate?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. That is approved. Thank you, everyone. All right, item 10 on the agenda, we had noticed a closed session this evening, and we've had a couple of developments actually related to the purpose of that closed session that we're going to choose to actually take that off the agenda tonight. We'll bring it back forward to the group again at our next meeting. So that brings us to, when is our next meeting?
Do you have any future possible agenda?
Oh, and future possible agendas. Yes, thank you. Anyone have ideas that they want on a future agenda?
Uses for barricades in the future?
Uses for
That's a joke. Strike that from the minutes.
We're going to sell them to the city.
Our goal should be to create another development, another new development, every time these barricades are available, that we can use them.
There we go.
All right,
Just
could rent them
move
out
to
for
the next
$5,000
development.
next time.
All right, let's pick a meeting date.
So October 21st would be a month from now. October 14th is an option.
That's my anniversary. Not-
14th?
I made that mistake once
Well, happy
before.
anniversary.
It only happens once.
Only happens once, yeah. How's the 21st look for folks?
Good here.
Works for me.
That's as good as any other.
Matt?
The 20, what?
21st?
Wednesday, October 21st.
Yeah, that should be fine for me.
No,
Jeannie?
no Christmas square for me this year, so I'm good on Wednesday night.
All right,
Next year, hopefully not.
good deal. 6:30 again? Okay.
21st.
Yes, the 21st.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Moved by Matt, seconded by
Second.
Dave. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, Brad.
I appreciate it.
Yep.